We don't show prep. So, so he had no idea.
I just barely make it in.
I'm sure you can tell, but we don't show.
I mean, let's put the cards down on the table here.
Miami Hurricanes, yeah. You know the name already. It's Mercy. Ha ha. It's a 6-ring Kane show. Can't forget the name though. Got Jazz, Blue, Vish, and DJ break the game code. Ain't no changing them, ain't no breaking them. Real put alive from the Hard Rock Stadium. Ball 14 for the orange and green. We see the 6-ring champs. It's more than a dream. This is life on the field. Beyond 100 yards, a hurricane that's never still put a damage to your squad. The 6-ring Kane show. The 6-ring Kane show. The 6 Rings Kane show. You know.
What's wrong with us? Seriously.
What's wrong with us? We're Miami Hurricanes fans.
Welcome to the 6 Rings Kane Show, a show dedicated to Miami Hurricane sports, featuring the legendary Larry Bluestein, Jazz Santana, Vish, and Danny Gillette. Let's go Canes.
What's going on, man? Welcome back to the 6 Rings Kane show. As you can see, the OGs are running the show today. We're running the Madhouse. Today's a crazy day period, but we're here. We're giving you a little bit of Kings news as the first official playoff poll came out today. So we'll definitely talk about that a little bit, and then we'll get into Georgia Tech. But it's me and Vish running the show today, running the Asylum. And the other two, we give them a day off, so they're on vacation.
Yeah, we let them relax, chill. We're holding down the fort here.
We are. But before we get into Miami Hurricanes football here, let's talk about our sponsor. You Break Will Fix. Have you ever run over a pothole so hard your steering wheel shakes? Are you constantly losing air in your tires that you need to keep adding air? Chances are there's an issue with your wheels, and You Break Wheel Fix is your solution. You Break Wheel Fix is Miami's premier wheel repair and restoration company. With over 20 years of experience and located in North Miami, You Break Wheel Fix offers quick repairs for damaged wheels, and in most cases can offer free loaner wheels to keep you on the road while you're repairing your damaged wheels. If your wheels are looking weathered and it's time to freshen up your car, don't replace, refinish. Their in-house wheel refinishing solutions such as powder coating, machining, and polishing will give your car the like-new look it deserves. So contact Mark and his staff at 305-748-0112 or on all social media outlets. It's at You Break Wheel Fix, the letter U. Break Wheel Fix. Mention 5 reasons to get 5.5% off your next repair. You Break Wheel Fix, powder coating and wheel repair, 1848 Northeast, 143rd Street in North Miami. That's 305-748-0112. Again, 305-748-0112. And that is that. And now we can talk about the polling. And no, I'm not talking about the presidential election. I'm talking about the playoff polling. As today, the NCAA playoff polling first poll, it finally came out, and maybe some surprises here and there, but not. I think all across the board, I think it looks pretty much like I expected it to look for the first one. However, the first one and the last one are the ones that I think are interesting to see because a lot could change between now and then. However, what we do know, Vish, is that the SEC is going to be well represented, right?
Yeah, and that was guaranteed to happen regardless of how things played out. I think I talked about this a little bit on Twitter, but the problem with the system is it's football. You can't play like 50 games to really, it's like baseball where you can play a million games to figure out who's really better. So you're going off a perception. When they come in, with more ranked teams, and those wins become wins against ranked teams. And then at the end of the day, a good example is actually not the SEC is definitely a good example, but the Big Ten, the committee is telling us that Oregon and Ohio State was essentially a national championship preview. Because they played, and Oregon's won and Ohio State's too, because Oregon won that game. And what if they're both not very good? They don't play, because again, you only play your own conference. You don't play this widespread. You might play an occasional out of conference game. So, it's kind of whatever your perception is of a conference or a handful of teams dictates the whole poll. Because the justification, going back to the SEC, you got Georgia 3. You got Tennessee 7. You got Bama 11. And so you look at that, but then just right outside of that, you got A&M 14, LSU 15, Ole Miss 16. Like those teams haven't beaten anyone except for each other, and that's where it becomes like a rising tide lift all boats situation. Like Tennessee's best win is over Bama. Bama's best win is over Georgia. Georgia's best wins over Texas. They're all in the playoffs, right? And so, maybe they all are actually that good, right? We don't really know. I'm not necessarily saying like, oh, they don't deserve to be in there but just that thing was set in stone the second that they paid all that money for the TV contracts for those conferences. That's why you're gonna get the Big Ten in there, and you're gonna get the because the Big Ten also has 4 teams. You're gonna get 4 and 4 there, and that's.
You mentioned Texas.
Yeah, Texas. They both have 4 teams. So I think I missed them on the initial go-around, but I circle back on them. Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, and Alabama are the 4 teams from the SEC, and then the 4 from the Big Ten are Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, and Indiana. So that's 8 of the 12. And then the ACC has 1, which is us. SMU is just outside, and then the Big 12 has 1, which is BYU, and then there's the required non-major team, which is Boise State, and then Notre Dame's independent. So those are your 12.
Notre Dame, no matter what, is always going to be in it. So whether they go 1-8 or whether they're 8-0, they're going to be in it somehow. So
this is but this is the thing, right? So Ohio State does not really have that quality win, right? They lost to Oregon. Really close game.
Penn State, right?
Penn State, yeah, Penn State. They did pick that up this weekend, although I have a feeling they'd have been ranked there anyway. Penn State has no quality wins, but they have a good loss, and it's hard. It's again, what you're gonna run into here, and this is what we're seeing pretty clearly, is logical inconsistencies, right? Because Notre Dame has by far the worst loss out of all of this group. They lost to Northern Illinois at home.
Right.
That's pretty much disqualifying. But they're in there, and then for other teams, like they're justifying Penn State in there as well. They have 1 loss, and it was to a good team, which it was. But so, what is the standard we're using there? Because Notre Dame's basically in there because they beat A&M on the road, which is a good win. A&M got their ass kicked this weekend, but that's a good team going on the road win. That's a good win. But they also have a horrible loss, and. So, like, what are we weighing here? I think we're just weighing vibes, man.
So then, and then the other question is, what's the justification for? I don't want to say they're not good because I think they're a good team, but the justification for Texas to potentially be so high, right? Number 5. Like, who have they beat? They really haven't beat a big program either. The only big program that they faced was Georgia, and Georgia, kicked their teeth in, right? So you're talking about a team that beat now. Are they taking into account that Oklahoma was ranked 18th when they beat them? Probably. Which should they? Maybe not. But they are, right? And then you're talking about they're taking a lot of I guess what's the word? I don't want to say intangibles or stuff that's outside of football into account, right? Well, yeah, they're an ACC team, an SEC team. That's what they're taking into account. And so, like you mentioned, it's all about these TV contracts with them as well, and which leads me to my next question for you. Which, by the way, Miami comes in at number 3 in the playoff bracket. which is right where I thought they would be.
Yeah, three in the bracket, fourth in the poll because they also seeded you and then did it to the bracket. So yeah, so
Which-
they're 3/4, yes.
Which, I mean, look, no matter what, I didn't see them. I didn't see the committee or I didn't see the polling moving them ahead of Georgia just because it's Georgia, right? So
Yeah.
number 3 sounds like a place where, okay, I'm not upset about it. I'm not upset about it. I get it. Right now, they're slated to play in the Peach Bowl against the winner of Alabama, Texas. Which you're talking about getting the worst. Hypothetically, the worst matchup, right? Because obviously it's probably the tougher of the teams that are on the outside playing in the first round. I would think. I think it's one of the tougher matchups that you have in the playoffs. So, but still, Miami can beat those 2 teams. They can beat them. I'm very confident that they can. And my question to you is, though, speaking of Miami, is right? The ACC was kind of left out. A lot of really good programs. Obviously, Pitt fell to SMU. Am I losing you, by the way?
You're a little choppy.
Am I losing you a little bit?
You lost me a little bit, but I think you're back.
All right. So talking about the ACC,
good.
Right? Awesome. Okay. So obviously you've got SMU just out, Pitt right around there as well. Two pretty good teams. Now you got some other teams that are hanging around, but for the most part, it's probably going to be Pitt and SMU are your top 2 teams aside from Miami right now that could potentially get in the mix here and play in the playoff. Do you think that they were ranked accordingly? Were they ranked the right way? Because the only loss that Pitt has is to SMU, right? SMU lost to a TCU team early in the year, but they've turned it on and they look really good right now. So what are your thoughts on how the committee ranked the ACC?
I mean, I think again, it's kind of what we expected. SMU lost to BYU, who is one of the big
TCU. It's BYU. You're right.
Yeah, who's the Big 12 champion according to the projections they have now, and so they were going to be behind them, and what they've done is they've basically pretty clearly communicated that SMU has got to win out because that was one of the open questions. Can they get to the ACC championship game, lose to Miami, and get in? That's pretty clearly. If they're not in right now, they aren't going to move up by, their schedule's not that. I mean, there's some challenging games. Like I said, there's a lot of good teams in the ACC, but no one that's going to, really vault them up into the top 10 or something where they can absorb a loss. So they're basically got to win out to get the automatic bid. It's the only way the ACC is getting 2 teams in. If we lose the ACC championship game, then they'll get to it. Clemson's pretty much done. Pitt's done looking at what we're looking at now because there's no real way for them to come back up. And again, it goes into name recognition because I think if SMU was Clemson and their only loss was a close game to BYU after which they switched quarterbacks and have been really playing really well since then, they'd probably be like 5-6. Like there's a decent chance that had Clemson not lost to Louisville, they would have been ranked in front of us, having beat absolutely no one except Louisville at home, who we beat on the road, and having lost. Right. And having lost a game. Yeah. And
so one of those FSU Miami things where Miami beat FSU, but FSU was ranked higher than them.
Yeah, and I mean they would have beat Louisville at home, who we beat on the road, and they also lost, of course, to Georgia badly. And there's a decent chance they would have been ranked. Name brand still matters. And I actually think, it's helping Boise State a little bit because they're a known commodity. I mean, we all remember when they were one of the better programs in the country over a multi-year period and consistently got into BCS bowls and won them. So it's total. So no one looks at Boise State like, what are they doing there?
Right.
And so I think, I think that's where it becomes, I think the name recognition really hurts SMU. Like they're not expected to be good. And so they just have a higher hill to climb. And that's not, they're going to have to win out. So it's probably going to be a 1-bid league. I guess the question becomes, because these SEC teams are going to play each other, all going to pick up more losses. What happens when that happens versus, when if Notre Dame loses a game, they're probably done? Question mark. That's going to open up a spot for another conference team. There's a lot of football that you played, obviously, and
what's crazy is if I know you heard this part about the SEC is that maybe a 3-loss team could potentially get a first round bye, and that's the craziness to it because LSU could, but right now they're atop, right? They're atop the SEC. I think them and Texas A&M maybe, and so Texas A&M still has to play a few of them. LSU still has to play a few of them. Same thing with Ole Miss. Ole Miss could run the table right now, get in the championship game, right? They're good enough. They've got the number 2 offense in the country, right behind Miami. They're still a good football team if all things considered. You can have some of those teams in the SEC lose another game and be a 9-3 team, win the SEC, and get a first round bye. And it's kind of weird, man. It's weird. I don't know.
Well, this is what happens when you have these mega conference. There's so many teams in the conference that 3 to 4 SEC teams is like less than 25% of the conference. So I mean, we're not we're talking about a small percentage where when it used to be like a 12-team conference or even smaller than that, then you wouldn't run those numbers. But yeah, all the teams. We talked about SMU's just outside their 13th. The next 3 teams are Texas A&M, LSU, and Ole Miss. So they're in pole position because they have chances to get those what they would consider marquee wins. Because again, they're going to play Alabama. If you beat Alabama, you jump up. And I think Ole Miss is still playing Georgia. So there's chances for them to get those marquee wins. Yeah, so get these marquee wins to jump up into the top 12. Those opportunities are still there. So it is. It's going to be it's going to be interesting to see how they sort all of that out. As Alabama loses another game, that's their 3rd loss. They haven't been punished for 2. Are they going to be punished for the 3rd one? I don't know.
Hey, Missouri's still in the top 25. How about that?
I mean, unbelievable. 0 resume, but they're not the only ones with 0 resume, right? I mean, you look at LSU, right, and they got a lot of mileage because everyone watched that opening game with USC and like, oh man, what a great USC is terrible. That's an awful loss.
That's an
awful loss, right? And so,
excuse me.
I mean, when you look at that, and then Penn State, remember they played at USC and pulled the game out at the end, and that's kind of their marquee win. We're seeing Texas like blew out Michigan on the road, and yes, that's a tough place to go play a road game, so give them some credit for that. That's not nearly as impressive as it was at the time. Tennessee got a lot of weight for blowing out Oklahoma, who stinks. So there's a lot of like what people thought the teams at the time carrying a lot of weight here. But I would say Ole Miss and Missouri really, they got nothing. Yeah. Like what are they? Like A&M has won some games. LSU has won some games. Certainly Tennessee has won games. They have a really bad loss, like losing to Arkansas. But some of these teams really just have a logo on their chest. Like, who have you beat?
Well, who's the best? So who's the best SEC team for you? Who do you think?
I think it is Georgia. Look, they played a really bad half against Alabama and then really dominated from there and just couldn't, they took the lead but couldn't hold it. I still think it's them. And I think Tennessee is good. I'm not even I think Texas is probably pretty good. Like it's hard to tell. They got to the big stage and played like crap and lost, right? And their coach panicked and started swapping quarterbacks and all the stuff went wrong for them, right? I think they're still good. I think Tennessee's a good team. They've proven that they can win different ways too, which is useful. But who knows, man? Because they don't play each other.
Tough team. I know you hate to say it, but I think A&M is a tough team. I think they're better with Malik Reed at quarterback, just because I think the offense flows better with him. That's not a knock on Connor Weigman, because I think Connor Weigman is he's a pretty good quarterback. I just think the system fits better for Malik Reed. I think that they're dangerous with him at quarterback.
Well, how do you evaluate? This is the thing, right? How do you evaluate a team like this? Yeah. Because they lost to Notre Dame at home. Their best wins, they beat Missouri, who stinks. They did beat LSU. Those are also at home. South Carolina just beat the crap out of them, right? In Columbia. Like their only other road games are Mississippi State and Florida. So I mean, if you're gonna, and again, yeah, it's really hard to evaluate because obviously losing to Notre Dame at home is that. I mean, who the hell knows? Like again, so I'm not, and that's why it's hard to criticize the committee because it's kind of like, all right, what do you even do with this type of thing, right? What do you do? How do you make sense of this? You really can't. Like, we're all guessing. Like, we don't know.
I have no idea.
What if Notre Dame's really good and they just played really bad against Northern Illinois? I don't know.
Yeah.
But you don't really play, you don't play diverse schedules. So this is what happens. It's all guessing. And again, a lot of it is what people thought of the teams you played them at the time you played them.
Right.
Virginia Tech, who once again blew a huge lead this weekend, they cut a lot of crap for losing to Vanderbilt in overtime. Alabama also lost to Vanderbilt, but by then people are like, well, Vanderbilt's pretty good now. So, they didn't get penalized for it like Virginia Tech did.
Right.
It's the same team. And again, if you were to lose to USC now, you get killed for it. But when LSU did it, it's a tough 2 ranked teams battling it out. Vegas opening game came down to the last couple of plays. Like, that's just 2 good teams playing, right? So a lot of it is perception of when you play. And there's no good way to do this. But they are basically leaning heavily on these are the conferences we think are good, so we're going to value those conferences because Ole Miss does not really have a resume.
The good news is it's gonna play itself out in the next 3 or 4 weeks, right? Obviously.
Well, I mean, I think for us it's straightforward.
Just win.
Yeah, for us it's straightforward. But these other, I mean, again, so we're not. This is the first time they're doing this, right? But I mean, I'm looking at Ole Miss, right? I mean, I got to show this. This is egregious that this team is. I mean, just as an example, right? If this team is allowed into the playoffs, I mean, what is this? Kentucky is not a good football team. They lost to them at home. They lost to LSU in overtime. They have no quality wins. So they just have to beat Georgia. They win 1 game and 2 losses, and all of this doesn't matter. To me, this is where it crosses like a line into what
I just realized it. Yeah, that's not a very strong skill.
This resume sucks. And yes, they would have to beat Georgia, who's the number 3 team. But come on, 1 game, you're going to vault them up there for 1 game.
Yeah, I don't know.
And that's what I'm saying. And this is where the challenge when you rate these conferences. Not all their conference schedules are created equal because there's so many teams. Like, they happen to get an easier conference schedule this year. Like, Georgia seems to be playing a marquee game. They already played. I think they still have to play. They play Tennessee too, right?
Georgia has to play. I think they got to play 2 more like big.
Yeah, like they already played Alabama and Texas.
But like this is good for Miami, right? Like, if you think about it, this is good for Miami because all the Canes have to do is win, and they can play themselves right into a 1 or a 2 seed, right? Like, it can happen.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Just win, and these other teams battle it out and kind of beat each other up a little bit. Even Oregon, Ohio State's going to get a shot at Oregon again. In the Big Ten championship. So if Ohio State beats Oregon, you got an undefeated Miami team. A lot of things can shape out.
Yeah, and that's kind of the big unknown. That's probably a good place to end it, Jazz, because it's like, looking forward, right? Like, how much are they going to weight these? Like, as the season goes further along, does being undefeated matter more? Because right now they've kind of discounted it a little. I mean, we got a 1 seed deduction. Or 2. There's multiple. There's 2 1-loss teams in front of us. BYU's down 7, 8, or whatever. They're obviously seeded 4th because they have to be.
They're ranked 9th and seeded 4th.
Yeah. So like, if we keep winning, eventually
they have a good resume. They'd be 2 top 25 teams.
Yeah, exactly. So like, and went out of conference and beat SMU, which so one of the things they always talk about, we value going out of scheduling out of conference. They did that.
Right. The team that intrigues me the most is Indiana. Because right now their strength of schedule is kind of crappy.
It's crap. But they're in the Big Ten.
One of the worst. But they're in the Big Ten. So now they have an opportunity, right? They'll have an opportunity to play in the Big Ten championship as well.
You gotta figure if they keep winning, they're gonna get, it's
Ohio State or Oregon play them?
Yeah, they play at Ohio State in the next to last game.
Okay.
But yeah, you kind of wonder at what point do they turn around and say, okay, we're gonna value being undefeated now more than good losses, which is apparently what they're valuing. Because we look at Ohio State and Georgia, at Oregon and at Alabama, their losses. Those are valued higher than us being undefeated right now.
Right.
Is that going to carry through the entire way? Whereas, like you said, if Ohio State plays Oregon in the Big Ten championship game and beats them this time, are they both ranked in front of us? Now, obviously, they both can't be seeded in front of us. Seeding and rankings aren't the same thing.
Sure.
But because they only one from each conference. But you got to figure, it's going to have to be a 2-loss SEC champion for us to jump them. And probably maybe a 2-loss Big Ten champion for us to jump them. So we might be kind of locked into 3. It's hard to know how they're going to evaluate. Does at some point does being undefeated carry more weight?
Right. Well, we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, exactly. We'll see. This is kind of the first thing that they've released. And it's also, the first year they're ever doing this. So we don't know if over time how much it's going to change, and whether or not it how radically they change these every week. We don't know if they might be relatively stable. They might jump all over the place week to week. So We'll see. Yeah, like Derek says, from our standpoint, just keep winning. Honestly, look, obviously we want to win the ACC, and if we win, we're going to talk about Georgia Tech after the ad break. But if we win the next 3 games, we're basically lock.
Yeah. Well, let's just keep winning, man.
Just keep winning. All right, so you want to do some? We'll do some underdog here, and then talk Georgia Tech.
Yeah, that's it.
That bouncing ball can only mean one thing. It's time to hoop. And with Underdog Fantasy, you can play higher or lower on all your favorite players, like Miami's own Tim Hardaway Jr. I love Underdog's Win Now feature, which lets you cash out whenever you want. So join over 5 million fans that are already playing on Underdog. And with their Champs game, you could win money by making entries with your favorite players. Download the app today and use code 5REASONS to get up to $1,000 in bonus cast instantly. That's UnderdogFantasy.com and the offer code 5REASONS to get up to $1,000 in bonus cast. That is FIVEREASONS. Must be 18 or older, 19 or older in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 or older in Colorado for some games, 21 or older in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. That's 1-800-639-8783, or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY, or text HOPE-NY.
I see what you did there. You took our advice and you sped up the back half of it.
But it's still intelligible though. So
it is. It doesn't sound. You don't sound like Alvin and the Chipmunks or anything like that.
People need help. They should get it.
Oh man. All right. So let's get into it real quick. This is an easy one, man. Don't let the referees take over this game. Come out firing on all cylinders, execute. Don't let them get any semblance of an idea that they can score on you, or that they can come back and take a lead or compete with you on the field. All right, we don't know if Haynes King is going to play yet, right? I don't think they've mentioned if it's going to be King or what's his name, Philo or something like that. He's the backup quarterback. I'm not sure. However, don't let it get to that point. Just come out, kick their ass, and go home, and that's it. Period. By the way, I just realized, you're in town?
I am until tomorrow morning. So.
Gotcha. Okay.
So yeah. Obviously everyone knows what happened last year. Yeah. So yeah. Kermit, don't leave it to kneeling. One play here or there.
Yep.
So yeah, I think they've had an up and down season. They obviously opened the season by kind of beating Florida State in Ireland. They have beaten. They've been all over the place. They beat Duke. They lost to Syracuse on the road. They lost to Louisville on the road. They lost to Virginia Tech on the road. I guess the one home blip is they did get beat by Notre Dame pretty comfortably at home. So. That was the other kind of ranked home game they played. So, that's...
They got a good running back. I know their running back is pretty good. Haynes King is a solid quarterback.
If he plays, yeah, if he plays. Otherwise, like you said, they've been kind of rotating multiple QBs in behind them, Philo and Zach Pyron. So we'll see what happens there. Even when Haynes King is in there, even when Haynes King is in there, they like to use Pyron as a runner, so we'll probably see him regardless. But yeah, if Haynes King doesn't play, then that does severely limit their passing. There's a huge drop off from him to the rest of to Philo and Pyron from a passing standpoint.
Right. Yeah, look, it's another 12 o'clock game away this time, right? And then you've got
right.
So you got to go out there. You got to get it over with quick and come back home. Now, I will say this, and I'll kind of jump right into it. I think that the biggest question mark for me, the thing that I am going to be focusing on the most is the play of that front four. We've got to get pressure. We have to, man. If we don't get pressure, look, we're down Jadaeus Richard now, okay? Hoping for a speedy recovery, but looks like he might be done for the year. All right, you're down him. You're down some guys at linebacker. Popo, I don't know if he'll be back for the game or not. Elijah Alston is another guy that we're looking to see if he'll be back for the game. But bottom line is, you got to get pressure, man. You saw what we did at the end of the game. We forced them. We forced them to make plays they didn't want to make. They made bad throws. They got turnovers. We were able to get the strip sack fumble. Those are the type of things that we have to do the whole game, not just at the end of the game. I understand at the end of the game it was great. It was clutch. We were able to kind of extend our lead and take off from there. But do that earlier, man. Get it done early and come out of that game hopefully healthy. Come back home, kick their ass, and that's it.
Right, and we haven't really.
Yeah, that's funny.
Gary's always got the jokes. We haven't really done that, right? We haven't really jumped on teams and kind of stepped on their throat. So this will be an opportunity to potentially do that, and hopefully, it'd be nice to kind of cruise to win. The last two games have been easy wins, but obviously last week was. We don't really want to be sitting there down 11 in the third quarter this time. But yeah, if Haynes King doesn't play, famous last words the way our past defense has been, but it's hard to see them really generating the pass offense needed to something happened on your end. We got all sorts of static coming out your speaker, but I think you're back now. So anyway, it's hard to see Georgia Tech generating the passing game to really threaten and score a lot of points if Haynes King doesn't play. Now, we did do a good job on him last year until the last two plays of the game. So, there's that. But, and it'll be interesting to see how we respond with the injuries. Like I said, Jadaeus Richard being out, there's going to be some shuffling in the secondary. We've seen Zaquan's, playing time increase over the season, even before that. So, probably see a lot more of him in this game.
I think you're going to have to, right? You're going to have to see him because you might have to slide one of those guys down, like you mentioned. You can also play with Diani Hill, OJ, and Porter on the inside. So you've got some options there. I think you might see a little Robert Stafford in this game as well. You're going to have to start bringing those guys in to play a little bit. Stafford should be playing. He's been in the program for 3 years now. We had high hopes for the kid. Let's put him in there and see what he can do. I know that there's some other guys like Dylan Day who play a little bit, Isaiah Thomas, some of these guys that play a little safety as well. But the fact of the matter is you're going to have to see what Robert Stafford can do a little bit. And man, just let Zaquan loose. Let him go out there and let him do his thing. I think that he's just chomping at the bit to get out there and play some football. So, and then at linebacker, if you're still missing Popo, Jalen Alderman did all right. But, a guy like Chase Smith who played early. He played early on and he did a good job, right? And then we kind of saw him disappear in conference play. Why not put him in there to play a little bit more again? right? You're missing out on an opportunity where he can come in, rush the quarterback a little bit. He's a big, strong kid. Let him play a little bit more. Bobby Pruitt is obviously going to play a little bit of Darius Hayes, those guys as well. And you'll probably see a lot of Malik Bryant also. So you've got some options there. You're going to have to start playing some of these guys. I expect to see more of a rotation from that front four also, because if you can't get it done, brother, you're gonna go sit down. You're gonna stand right next to me, and I'm gonna put someone else in, because right now you got to get as much pressure as you can, and regardless of whether it's the young guys or the veterans, you got to be able to rush the quarterback, get some pressure on him, force some turnovers, or at the very least get him to throw the ball a little too early, throw the ball a little too late, get a couple of sacks. You got to be able to force them to play third and long, and execute a little bit. So we'll see what happens, but I fully expect Miami to come out and to kick their ass. I think they need to.
Yeah, no, we do need to kick their ass and dominate. And I think that'll, like you said, heading into the bye week, that's a big thing to do. Hopefully get a little healthier, bring some guys back that are injured. I think Jadace is probably out for the year, if not, maybe the playoffs. So not him, but Mario's always hitting it. This guy could be back. That guy could be back. That's his. Right. It's hard to know. But yeah, I think we don't want to, be in a tight game here late in the game, because again, obviously the crowd will be into it. It's Miami's in town, so you want to silence them early, kind of step on them, and not let up on that, because again, if you keep, we've gotten away with it because we're good, though. It's not like we're getting lucky. Like, I mean, the offense is the best in the country, so can overcome deficits. But the defense is not strong, and we have not been in the situation really, other than Virginia Tech, where the defense had to make a stop and they barely hung on there. And so, you don't want to be in a situation where you're up again, like 3 or 4 points late in the game, and Georgia Texas got the ball,
right?
And you're like, oh, we gotta defend now. Because I don't trust this defense to do that in that situation, in the high leverage.
Not at all, man. I don't care how bad the team is that we're playing. I don't trust them right now.
Right.
A little bit.
Yeah. So that's a situation where you don't want to keep putting yourself in that situation. I don't know about that. We've played some good defenses already this year. We'll see. I mean, they've done a decent job on the scoring aspect. Again,
it's not a bad defense.
No. They're not a bad defense at all. They're a good scoring defense. They've given up 30 plus, a handful of times, but that's or maybe just the one. Actually, just the one twice to Louisville and to Notre Dame, and to Syracuse 3 times. Never mind. But those are all 31 points. So. Yeah, no, we've been putting up 50, so there's something's got to give a little bit there. But again, that's why it's incumbent on our defense to play better than they have been, and not, I still feel like our offense can score on anyone, so I'm not really concerned that they're going to find a way to do that. But we'll see how it unfolds as we as the game goes on. These games do tend to have a little bit of a they have a momentum to themselves, but hopefully if we get up 14-0 this game, we don't find ourselves down. We don't allow the other team to go on a 28-3 run like Duke did last week.
Bring your ears back and just keep going and go after it, right? So I get it. On the other side of the football, like you mentioned, I fully expect us to score a lot of points. I do want to see them get the tight end involved a little bit more. Just to kind of get their confidence up. I know that it's hard not to, Arroyo I think is fine. Obviously you saw McCormick catch another touchdown pass. He's got 2 catches this year for touchdowns. No, but the truth is that I think the tight ends, believe it or not, I think the tight ends are doing a great job with this offense. But I think that there's an opportunity to get them the ball more, especially a guy like Arroyo. Like, he just goes out there. Look, Arroyo made a great catch, made a nice play. Run after the catch a little bit. Riley Williams made a spectacular catch on that over the shoulder grab that he made last week. Both are very, very good pass catching tight ends, but both are blocking the hell out of those defenses as well for the running game. I heard Booger McFarland, which by the way I don't understand how that guy has a job at ESPN, but I heard that guy talking a little bit about can Miami run the ball consistently enough to compete. I'm like, well, damn, man, it obviously shows that you don't watch Miami Hurricanes football, and that's the problem, right? We've talked about this, Vish. A lot of teams don't. A lot of these experts, the Joe Klatts of the world. Don't get me started with that moron. But a lot of these people, they don't watch Miami play a lot, and then they're going to go on there and say, "I've watched the film." I'm like, you don't have enough hours in the day to watch everybody's film and talk about everybody. I guarantee you're not watching Miami, and then you're just talking trash about Miami. So if you are watching the same games that we are, you'll notice that Miami can run the ball efficiently against anybody. They just have the best quarterback in college football, who can throw the ball for 400 or 500 yards whenever he wants. And so, guess what you're going to do? You're going to throw for 350, 400 yards, and you'll run for $150 and make it look like, oh, $150 is not that much. But the truth is that it's a really good running game. It's a really good running attack, and I do expect them to continue to use it, often, because they are pretty well balanced when it comes to that. And you're going to continue to see Miami's offense kind of dominate the game. So I don't want to point any one person out, because I think that Cam does such a great job of distributing the football to everybody or getting everybody involved in the offense that for me it's about making sure that you keep the pocket clean. The offensive line just needs to work on that a little bit. And I think that you're going to continue to see some great offense from the Canes.
Right, and that's, again, we just want to play a complete game. Yeah, I agree. The defense needs to pick it up. They just need to be more consistent. Like, even they don't need to be lights out. They're so up and down. Like, they'll play really well for a few possessions, and then when it goes bad. Like, the speed with which Duke went from 3-and-out to touchdown is just, and then it was touchdown. Like, it was mind-blowing how quickly they just flipped the switch and couldn't even get to third down. All of a sudden, it's just so some consistency there. They don't need to be, world beaters because the offense is that good. So it's really just, can they keep it together enough to just be consistent, get stops when we need to, keep the scoring down, and then the offense will take care of the rest. And that's not that is, that's not it's not too much to ask. And I think I don't know about you, man, I'm looking at this defensive line to finally step up and play like the talent that is there. I mean, you look across those four and you're like, how are they not just in the backfield in every play? And they're not.
It's wild. It's wild to me. I can't believe it, right? But again, I think that's more on them than anything else, man. You gotta want to go out there and get them, right? You make some mistakes. You gotta do a better job. You're too good. You're too good to not get in there and go after them and get some stops and make some plays and be a menace. It's unbelievable that they're not. So
right, and that's where when you're looking at this. Sorry, wrong one. My friends are tweeting about the election. I just texted Jazz this shit, and then
yeah,
I'm sure he doesn't. I'm sure he cares.
You texted it to me. Yeah,
I know you got it. Anyway. For those wondering, Kamala Harris won Virginia. That's what my friend was like. Did she lose Virginia? I was like, no, she won that. But we're gonna be, waiting a week for Pennsylvania to count again. It looks like. But anyway, so that means you should just watch us. Nothing's happening over there.
Yeah. It's gonna take a while.
Yeah, either the defense adjusts the start or the offense keeps scoring. Well, I mean, again, we're talking about winning the national championship, right? So we're talking about we're playing a dangerous game there. Just I think our offense can score on anyone. I know Jazz agrees with that. We have the best offense in the country, but giving up 30 points and winning, it's not something you want to have to do on a consistent basis. And we've done that 3 times this year already. So, at least keep them into the 20s, teens ideally, and you're gonna coast to win. If you don't do that, then eventually you might get burned. I mean, obviously Cal was right there
Well, don't leave it up. Don't leave it up to the Georgia Tech game for that. You know?
Yeah, and I do think this is a game where, as Kermit mentioned earlier, like they have a good defense, and so yeah, I expect our defense to kind of step up and carry a little bit more weight here against a team that's not scored a lot of points, particularly with their backup quarterbacks in. So.
It's going to be interesting. Predictions. Let's do it.
Well, let's do a little pre-setup there. So the game is obviously Saturday at noon, and the spread is Miami minus. I'm seeing 11. It opened at 13 and moved away from us, Jets.
Oh, Jesus.
People are putting money on Georgia Tech plus 13 and drove it down to plus 11.
Ugh. Okay. Well, 11. Okay. Interesting. All right. So what's your record? What do you think?
Man. Yeah, I think this will be a little bit lower scoring for the Canes. And by that, I mean still the best offense reports we would have had all of last year. A little bit low scoring, not going to hit 50. They'll hit the high 30s, I think. I'm thinking like 35 to 17.
Okay. I'm going to go 41-21.
Okay.
I think we'll still stay in the 40s, but just barely. 41-21 Miami. So.
I will say, when we had that disaster of a team 2 years ago, this was the only game we played well in.
By the way, where's Ralph when you need him? 45-42?
I know, Ralph, we got you down for 45-42.
We probably tricked them when we came on Tuesday instead of Monday. So
yeah, no, we fooled him. We will be back on Monday next week, though. We'll be back on resuming normal scheduling there.
Oh, yeah. Make sure you check us out. We'll be on, and I'm sure Buckets. It's going to go crazy this week as well. Both teams.
Yeah, we got Buckets on Thursday, so
there you go.
Stay tuned for that.
Both teams got off to a nice start, obviously against.
Not as good competition, but you got to rack up those W's.
Let's see what happens there. Keep it locked. Follow us on Twitter at 6 Rings Canes, and also on subscribe to 5 Reasons Canes podcast. Wherever it is you get your podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever it is that you get it. Make sure you keep it locked, and we'll see you guys next Monday.
The 6 Ring Canes Show. Yeah. The 6 Ring Canes Show. Yeah. The 6 Rings Canes Show. You know.